Hi everyone, happy Friday, and welcome back to Naylo's Thrift Talk. I am Lola,
And I'm Nay.
and this is a weekly live YouTube show all about thrifting and reselling and incorporating reuse and secondhand items into our daily life. And I have to admit, I'm a little discombobulated today. My cat is here chewing on anything he can get his hands on, which is not helping. I've also slept like 4 hours this week because I've been glued to the TV. So
Yeah, I think the election, it's been a weird week for everyone.
it's been really weird. If you're watching this later, this is Friday after the 2020 election in the United States. So it's been quite a week.
Which is still ongoing. It's
Yes.
can't say after because it's still
I have my
3 days later.
I have my phone right here in case anything happens while we're live. But
well, you can let me know because my phone is dead.
Yes.
So
and if anyone sees it first in the chat, if something big happens, let us know. But today we are going to be talking all about sweaters.
Oh, and I see Betsy's in the chat. Betsy, I got my nail strips. Thank you.
So as you probably know, if you are a returning viewer, I am really into knitting. It's my biggest hobby outside of reselling, and which is, more of a business than a hobby. But so I have learned a lot about sweaters between the two over the years, and I'm super excited to teach you guys a little bit about what to look for in terms of fiber content and style. And there are some great BOLOs, like really, really expensive pieces, but also just a lot of great bread and butter items that are, a lot of bread and butter, happy to get $10, $15. Sweaters are more like 20, 30, 40. So they're always a great thing to be looking out for.
Yes. And I didn't know. I didn't realize that Becky also knits and crochets.
Nice. Yes. It is hard to flip yarn when you're a knitter or a crocheter.
Well, the thing is, I have attempted it, but I'm not. I can't. I can say that I so far have failed miserably. But Lola, being a knitter, knows a lot more about like the stitches on sweaters and how much work goes into them and the patterns and whatnot, more so than I do because she is an avid knitter, unlike myself who has attempted it and
yeah. I mean,
I'll still try, but
it is really cool to, like, once you start getting really into knitting, or I guess crochet probably in different ways, but and you learn all the different techniques and stuff, you go into a regular retail store and you can figure out basically how everything was made, because even if it's made by a machine, the actual like mechanism of how the yarn is manipulated to make a sweater, it's all the same. It's just, doing it versus doing it by hand. So it sort of demystifies a lot of what we wear, which is very cool. But that said, Nay, you want to jump into our regular segments?
Absolutely. So what thrifted items are we wearing today? Lola, what are you wearing that's thrifted?
First off, I'm wearing something that's not thrifted. But I
sorry.
Had to show my Philly pride today, so I had my Eagles shirt on.
Yeah. Cool.
Bummed I didn't get to vote in Philly this time around, but still very much love Philly and excited to see it on the national stage right now. And to match, I thought I'd wear one of my favorite thrifted sweaters, green like the Eagles. And I mentioned this on an episode a couple weeks ago, I think, when you're talking about the thumb holes. This is the sweater that has
that makes it
thumb holes, which I wanted to fix, but I think I might actually just cut into the other ones so that they match. This is an example of one of the sweaters that is definitely not high end, but I would pick up to flip even if I didn't keep it for myself, which I did. In this case, this one's just like nice and cozy and oversized. It's like from the 80s. It has, nice graphic design on it. It's not high end. I think it does have a little bit of natural fibers, which gives it the kind of like halo effect. I don't know if you can see it on the screen that well.
Yeah.
Very fuzzy. But it's mostly acrylic, I think.
It looks so cozy.
Yeah, so it's not like a high-end sweater, but it has, you know, probably do well on Depop, that kind of thing. So, and but I kept it, so it's mine.
So it looks like our viewers are participating. So Jason says his underwear is thrifted. That's lovely. Thank you for that information.
That's very impressive. That's a hard item to find.
And Brian says that his Tommy Bahama shirt is thrifted. Love paying under $5 for a nice shirt. Yep, absolutely. There's nothing like that. And you know, when you know that what you're buying, if you bought it new, would be, you know, quadruple that, and you're getting something, you know, just as nice. It's definitely,
yeah,
that's what we love. And
this is probably one of my few not thrifted shirts, especially as t-shirts go. I think I bought it on our way to like a watch party for the Super Bowl or something. Like I was like,
well,
you
get a pass because it's, you know, we're Philly girls. So Becky, that would be Lola's probably ultimate dream.
The room I'm in now is my yarn room. You can't really see it, but I have been slowly installing different yarn storage units in here.
Yeah, I bet your sister's old kitchen yarn room is pretty big too, but with the old kitchen. Wow.
That is pretty awesome.
So I am wearing this cozy, this is Urban Outfitters. It is a wool blend. So it's yeah, and I don't know if this is true Fair Isle, but we'll get into that. I don't think so. But it is it's a more modern sweater. I forget the exact label, but it is definitely Urban Outfitters. It's you know, it's something that I would be able to resell for a decent amount, but it's just so cozy and warm and big. And then I wore this today that I just pulled off the Goodwill tag for $1.99. I've been going through my inventory in the basement, and I came upon this in my hat bin, and I was like, ooh, this is perfect for the sweater show. So I just ripped off the $1.99 Goodwill tag. So, but I think it did come from the bins. But so yeah, so it's kind of, you know, little sweater accent on my hair.
And it's starting with chilly, so good time to pull that out.
So my mannequins are wearing. So this one here is wearing a vintage. The brand is Jansen. Oops, I just hit something there. I didn't mean to hit that again. So that the brand is Jantzen. It is from, I believe, the 60s. So it's gorgeous. It is wool. It is hand knitted. And I actually ended up getting this for free because kind of a long story, but it was free in donations that were left outside in the rain that shouldn't have been donated, you know, like that. They shouldn't have been, they were just dumped. So I was able to dry it out and, you know, give it some TLC, and it's in perfect condition. So
beautiful.
I know, it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. And then this is a Woolrick sweater. It is Woolrick with the koalas. This is 100% wool. And I got this in Philly at a thrift store. I forget what I paid. I think I paid like $8.99. Got it a while ago. I do have it up for sale now, but it's been a really tough thing to let go because
yeah, it's adorable.
So, and then this one is an example up there of a novelty sweater, which is a low-end brand. I think the brand is like Body Central. It's an acrylic nylon blend. So that one, you know, I might get $20-25, but the reason, because it's a lower end, that I would get, you know, as at least that much for it would be because of it's got actual buttons on it, like 3D buttons, is because it's got that novelty cute kind of print. So
yeah, that like for someone who's not religious but is going to like an ugly Christmas sweater party and doesn't want to wear an actual Christmas sweater, that's a great option.
Yes. And this is actually, of all brands, it is J. Jill, which is not a real super high-end brand, but this particular sweater is gorgeous and very well made. It is a wool sweater, and it's really soft. It's soft wool. I think it's like a wool. It might be. Okay, it is a wool. It's 70% wool and 30% acrylic, so it does have a little acrylic in it, which does make it a little softer sometimes. But it's got these pretty buttons on it, and I love the pattern on it. So that is an example of one that's, you know, not necessarily a high-end brand, but something that would sell well based on the pattern. So that is, and okay, so Brian says, yes, for Jewish people invited to a Christmas party. Yes, that would be appropriate. Yeah. And I'll probably save it for our holiday show maybe, but I do have an awesome Hanukkah sweater, by the way, Brian.
Okay, I've definitely been seeing more ugly Hanukkah sweaters the past few years, which is nice.
Yeah. I have a Hanukkah hat too, and I'm not Jewish. I have plenty of Jewish friends, and but I proudly wear my Hanukkah hat all holiday season. I love it. So okay, so our
I totally forgot.
That's okay.
This is the second time recently I've done it.
Grab something really quick. I have something.
Do you have something good?
Yeah. Well, it's decent. Yeah, I have two things. So our thrifted home decor. So I have the wrong. This Lola, can you help me?
Sorry, trying to remember. I said we're super discombobulated today.
I'm if you can just do the screen. Okay. So this is a horse that I'm going to break. It is ceramic. It's actually, it's ceramic, but it has a Japan stamp on the bottom, which is how you know that it is very vintage. So it's I probably will sell this. It's in my china cabinet, but it was kind of a sad story. I got a whole bag of these horses at Goodwill, but the sad thing is they just threw them in a baggie, and that whoever donated them, they weren't broken to begin with, and whoever donated them had taken care to probably wrap them and everything before they donated. And so I did buy the bag anyway, because I think I ended up getting it like on Dollar Day for $1, but they were all broken to bits. So I only was able to salvage a couple of the horses out of the bag, but I figured it was worth buying it for $1 to salvage the couple of horses that I could. And this is one of them. But it's sad because they were just clinking together in the bag, and they unfortunately. And then this is I had like one of those sweater cozies somewhere, and I couldn't find it. That would have been perfect for our show, but this was my second best thing. It kind of is like a sweater weather mug, and I think I showed this on another show before. It is one of those s'mores mugs. So
that's so cute.
Yeah. So, and I did thrift this for like $1.99 or something.
So I have a sort of silly item, but just within reach, and it is something I use all the time, especially when I'm knitting.
Can you switch the view?
Yep. And one thing that it's not like something I set out to collect, but I end up collecting are vintage rulers, because unlike, we mentioned this before, but like fabric measuring tapes often will get stretched out over time. So if you find a vintage one, you really have to check and make sure it's still accurate. Often it won't be. But rulers, that doesn't happen. And they all have just like these beautiful designs that are kind of hard to find nowadays on
that is
wood,
different,
really nice, beautiful metal edge. Like the handcraft in them is just really, really nice. And so I just always get attracted to them if I see them in a thrift store, in the bins or something. And it's always nice to have one in like every room between knitting and measuring, items to resell, stuff like that. So this one just sits in my my pencil like tub on my desk, and I pull it out whenever I need just a short, a few inches, which is something that you do a lot in knitting to measure the gauge, which is not super important to this episode, but it is something you do when you knit sweaters. So
yes, absolutely. So very cool. So that kind of ties in, yeah. And we have okay, so I just want to go through this again, that I am a graphic designer, and if anyone needs any kind of graphic design work, not just if you're an online seller needing, a store logo, a store banner, business cards, all of that stuff. I do everything, because I am a graphic designer. So that if you are interested, though, I am doing special discounted packages for online sellers. And I think I'm going to be running these prices just probably until the first of the year. And then I am going to have to bump up the prices because they are ridiculously low. So if you are interested and you want to, get on my list, you can reserve these prices through the end of the year. And these are the package prices. However, I can do a la carte items. I can customize the packages. So just talk to me and let me know. And if you're interested in one package of equal or lesser value, you can get it for a second one for 25% off, which is like if you have an eBay store and you want your eBay store design, but you also have an Etsy store and you want a different design for that, I can do that one for 25% off. So just let me know. And again, I'm not going to be running these deals forever. So, if you're interested, definitely message me or, this is my Facebook, NS Designs or at N Shearstone Designs. So that's my business page. So a lot of ways to get in contact with me. Just let me know. And next week, we are going to be doing 2020 holiday decor trends. Mm-hmm. So the pandemic has changed the way people are decorating and what they're doing a little bit. And we'll talk about that. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about Thanksgiving. I know it's, almost there to Thanksgiving, but we'll talk a little bit about that. There is still time to thrift for Thanksgiving, and especially if you're doing it for your personal needs. And then Christmas, Hanukkah, and a little bit about New Year. So,
And if you are excited to get going on your listing for holiday items, we did do a series last year of some great guests for each holiday. So we actually do have our friend Tim on from Halloween, which we didn't mention and probably should have. So that's already passed. But we do also have Christmas and Hanukkah, Judaica themed.
Our friend Zach Portman did a great episode last year. He is a Judaic scholar, and he also is an artist, an awesome artist. He makes mezuzah. Am I saying it right? I hope I'm saying it right. He makes those, and he makes just anything that you need. Like, he is amazing at carving. He also makes headstones in a Jewish cemetery he's just phenomenal. So if you need anything, go back to that episode and you can, if you need a wedding gift or whatever. But we also had our very own Ginny on last year talking all about Christmas. Ginny is the queen of Christmas. So anything that, yes, Brian says he buys almost any good menorah he finds at Goodwill. Yeah, and I have found some beautiful menorahs that I've sold. I do have one that I've kept. And again, I'm not Jewish, but it's just so beautiful that I haven't been able to part with it. So, it's definitely. And Brian says that he wants to see my Hanukkah. I will wear the Hanukkah hat on our holiday episode, for sure.
I think you wore it on our last Hanukkah episode, though. So
I think I did, yeah. But I'll wear it again because it's one of my favorite hats. So I said it right. That's a good thing. Okay.
And
so next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. What's that?
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to say that we'll update a little bit of, what we talked about on our episodes last year with sort of 2020 specific information, just because, this year is a little different. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Yes. And also, if you celebrate Kwanzaa, we don't, we're not very knowledgeable about it. But if anyone does and they have any Kwanzaa trends or anything they want to add, let us know. So, that
would be awesome.
Yeah. So. And now we're going to get into our main segment, which is all about sweaters.
Sure. So did you end up bringing up those graphics that you sent to me last night?
Yes, I did. I sure did. I have them. So.
Okay. So sweaters are one of those things where we all wear them. The basics are probably things that you already know, but then when you really want to get into the details, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of terms. And one thing that I noticed when I was researching sold listings on eBay last night was that a lot of listings really did not have great terminology. And of course, there's a lot of people who are looking for sweaters who don't maybe know exactly the right word for what they're looking for, but there are also people who do. So it can't hurt to have all of those terms in your listing. And it could be really easy to stand out in this category because a lot of words are misused or, kind of used generally, or just not included in the titles or descriptions of items. So I definitely want to start by going through some of the terminology, and then I'll talk about what to look for if you're looking in the thrift store, like what should jump out at you as a good quality sweater, and then also what some BOLOs and holy grails are that chances are you probably won't find, but you never know. And I have found a couple really high-end sweater adjacent items, so they're definitely out there.
Yep, for sure.
So, the basic styles, which you probably already know, your basics, like a turtleneck is going to have a higher neck. This is a cardigan, what I'm wearing now. So anything that comes, open in the front like this can be considered a cardigan. I did notice that eBay on the item specifics has some kind of weird terms. So I did pull up a screenshot of that. And
I'm trying to do something else. It's not working here. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know what I did, Lola.
What?
Can you help me?
What did you do?
Oh, is it not? You know what I did? I know what I did. It's not on my screen that it doesn't look. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I was like, it's looking fine for me. Okay.
No,
so
I know what I did. It's fine. We're fine. We're fine.
What Nay is wearing is a pullover. And then you also have, so this
men's sweater styles, but this can go for anything here.
Yeah. And this includes, like, I wouldn't necessarily say like, V-neck versus a crew neck. Those are good terms to use, but they're in the same category of like pullover sweater versus a cardigan. And
Fair Isle is really a pattern, not a sweater style.
So this is where I noticed that a lot of the terminology kind of gets jumbled up, and there's a weirdly not a consensus in terms of like actual like garment websites, like are item specifics on eBay, like what counts as what kind of sweater. It's not a big deal. So the different necklines will help differentiate. So that's one thing. So V-neck versus crew neck versus turtleneck. And then this says slip over. What I would say is a vest is probably the most common term in the United States. Yeah. I know that they're different in other countries. So, if you're selling internationally, it might be worth using different terms. And then, so like I was saying earlier, one of the best ways to learn the right terminology for all of this is to look at knitting, because knitters know their stuff, and knitting websites and even like YouTube videos can be super, super informative, and will probably actually give you way more information than you really need to know. So one thing that you'll start to learn if you're looking at knitting websites is that the way that a sweater is constructed also has an impact on what it looks like. So you'll have a raglan sweater. I think if you scroll down a little bit. Okay, so this doesn't have, but these are some of the silhouettes that are similar to like dresses.
Down here.
Yeah.
Raglan right there.
Right, so the raglan sweater will have sort of diagonal lines that come down like this. Saddle shoulder, the sleeves kind of go up onto the shoulders themselves. And then drop or set in sleeve, you can tell that the sleeves kind of are attached to the body as it comes down straight. And those are, you don't have to totally understand the way a sweater is made, but it is important to understand the way it looks on the body as it's being worn, which is a direct result of how it's made. So if that makes sense, some of these terms that come from the construction of the sweater can actually be informational to the buyer and them knowing how it wears. Circular yoke is one that's more common in hand knit sweaters. I don't think it's as common in like commercial sweaters. I wouldn't worry about that one too much. And then dolman is one that you do see a lot in other blouse type or like top types, like more like t-shirt fabric. I know I've seen that a lot too. So that's a good one to know if you're looking at blouses as well as sweaters.
I think
Yes, that's a
I
great
think Betsy was talking
on the last graphic. Yeah.
So
So
is it the last one?
another
Oh, the last one that I showed. I'm sorry.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, another neckline.
Yeah, also a boat neck. Yeah, that's
Right.
right. The word
Right.
comes from.
And then the reason why I say like the lines blur here a little bit, because those different necklines can also be combined with all of these different sweater types. So you can have, you can have a V-neck, you can have a V-neck pullover, you can have a V-neck raglan, you could have a V-neck cardigan. So, some of this sort of mix and match. And then the next thing that's really important to know is the name for the design on the sweater itself.
Yeah. So I have so this doesn't help as much. This is more about the stitches.
Mm-hmm. This gives you a little bit. So there's two things that this graphic unfortunately kind of combines, which I wanted to discuss separately. But there's the stitch pattern of the sweater, which is the like the design of the sweater, and then the fiber, which also can affect the texture. So
yeah, they're two different things, really. But a lot of I did see that a lot of the graphics kind of combine them. So I'm not sure how helpful this is then, but
see if I can. Oops. Sorry. So one thing to look for is cables, and cables can exist on a sweater that is just a very basic kind of twist cable pattern. A crew used to have a lot of I had a lot of them as like staples in my wardrobe. So it's sort of that like kind of basic.
Yep.
So that's where you'd want to use the term like cable, but cables are also part of Aran sweaters, which is a tradition of Irish.
That's ARAN, correct?
ARAN, yeah. Fisherman sweaters, and they can be extremely expensive. So here's just a few examples. The first one is, hugely expensive. That's the Chanel, so that's a little bit of an outlier. But they do, it's a design that's so classic that high-end designers will create their versions of it. The other three examples here are all sweaters that were made in Ireland and are sort of the traditional. You might go on vacation and buy it as a souvenir, and that's how some of them will end up in the United States. I find these not infrequently in thrift stores, so it's definitely something to look out for. It's more rare to find one that's in pristine condition without mothballs and stuff, but it definitely happens. I was telling Nay that I actually found one from this brand Clio, which is in the corner. That it was new with tags. It was beautiful, and my cat peed on it. So
yeah, that's like impossible, especially when you're dealing with a sweater of all things.
It's never going to come out right. Yeah. And I wouldn't want to sell it to a buyer. And
yeah, that would be an unhappy.
Not a good idea. But that would have easily been like this. I'd say over $100 sweater, maybe more because it did still have the tags. I don't think this one did.
Oh, it did have the tag. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of these sweaters I noticed will use the term like fisherman sweater as the most common keyword. I would definitely use that, but it's also helpful to have the specific type. So if it's an Aran sweater with these, you can tell that the Chanel sweater is a great example of this because it's all over cabling with different types of panels of like cable designs in a row. And often we'll also have a sort of honeycomb pattern to it, which I think this blue one at the bottom has here.
You did on some of those. This is see them a little closer.
See if I can. Yeah. So see how this one.
Yep, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, the bottom half is sort of like a honeycomb. That's very distinctive. So you can generally learn to recognize these pretty well. Another similar type that gets confused with Aran sweaters sometimes is the Gansey, which is another Irish fisherman's sweater. But the difference is that the Gansey will have a pattern that is not cabled. It's more of like raised bumps that will sometimes create like a geometric design. So diamonds, triangles, or even more of a graphic image.
It's something like this.
Well, that one has baubles, so it's a little, but closer to that.
Okay.
I don't think I actually ended up saving a photo. No. But both of those would be considered fisherman sweaters, so you can use that term for both of them.
Okay.
Oh, and then the other thing to note is that the most traditional Aran sweaters are made in undyed wool, so like the Chanel sweater. And some people are purists and that appeals to them, but now it's pretty common to find all kinds of colors, so solid colors, but like the other examples here. And then another one to know is Fair Isle, which is Nay, what you're saying you are wearing currently. And the most traditional Fair Isle patterns are a series of very intricate geometric designs. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'll show you the label on this in a minute when I
have one too, just remembered. I think I showed this on a previous episode too.
Okay, yeah.
So it'll have these sort of stacked in a row different patterns.
So this is
the most traditional method.
No, go on. Sorry.
Okay. We'll have only 2 colors per row. So a lot of times I think you will see some deviation from that in modern commercial.
So this is not a true traditional Fair Isle because it is more modern. It's like I said, it's urban, so it's urban, so it's not.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, it doesn't matter in terms of using keywords. It still counts as Fair Isle. And on these examples,
can you flip us for 1 second?
Sure.
So this will be a Fair Isle, and then I want to show you the label on this. This is vintage. Can you see it well?
I looked it up a little more. Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Lanugi of Scotland.
Mm-hmm. Anytime you see a label like this that refers to like Ireland or Scotland,
yeah,
you're probably going to have something good. Another thing to look for, like this one is not made in Scotland, but it does say Shetland wool, which is the traditional type of wool used to knit a Fair Isle sweater. So pretty much anytime you see on a label that, no, I should.
Oh, can we switch the, yes.
Anytime you see a label that specifies what type of wool it is and doesn't just say wool, that's a good sign.
And then Hong Kong and just the label I'm looking at, it looks like it's 80s probably, or early 90s.
Vintage. It's in really beautiful condition. Does have a little bit of pilling.
Is that your personal sweater? You're not going to sell that, are you?
I have been on the fence. I mean, I kept it at first, but I haven't really worn it, so I may list it. Now's the time.
I did list this one. I wanted to keep it because it would fit me, but I wanted to keep it, but I'm selling it. Like it's listed, but I listed it like kind of obnoxiously high. It's like and if somebody buys it for that price, I'll be happy. But
that's a good way to do it. That's probably what I will do.
Yeah. So
these are all recent solds. So you can see how some of these can go quite high. 2 of these are higher end brands. So Acne. This one is actually interesting because it's Fair Isle, but it's like the reverse side of the Fair Isle sweater, so it has a different kind of look to it. And then Keel James Patrick, I know a little bit about. It's like a very preppy kind of Nantucket based, I think, brand. So it seems like this brand has a series of kind of novelty Fair Isle sweaters. So they have this one with pumpkins. I think there was one with like apple orchard sort of motifs on it. And those all seem to do well. And then this one is a vintage one that's more traditional, though it does have a really cool like neckline, sort of V-neck, but it then has like ribbing in the V. Yeah. So it's actually.
Can you zoom in a little bit on those? Okay, yeah, there.
And then this one just has, it's also like beautiful colors. You can see where it deviates a little bit from traditional Fair Isle because it has all of the solid stripes on the shoulder, but that obviously it's still considered Fair Isle here. So just, a little bit of diversity of what you can look for, and also proof that you can find some gems
Oh, absolutely. And especially, and I know this is something that you were going to mention a little later, but especially in the summertime, in the warmer, if you look in the sweater section, like in the summer, people, for the most part, except for, I mean, resellers are, but even resellers are looking for like those current, you can find some gems in the, in the opposite season. Not that you won't find some stuff now too, but it's definitely going to be in a higher demand now, whereas in the off season it won't be. So
yeah, and I think there's probably some stores that hold back their sweater stock for until it's in season. So
that's true. Like the Christmas sweaters and the thrift store, you'll see like the boutique section has like, and they price them ridiculously high.
So yeah, so it can be a little hit or miss, but like if you know your store, I know our local thrift, where I used to go all the time in Philly, they would definitely bring up more sweaters in the winter, but the rack in the summer would have all of these completely overlooked amazing sweaters that just sitting there. And even some that I'd be on the fence about, and like 3 weeks later, they'd be there and they'd be discounted, that I'd grab them. So, it's one of those seasonal items to look out for all year round. These are two examples of Norwegian sweaters. Dale of Norway is a very well-known brand. They do the Olympic, Winter Olympic outfits. So you'll see some of those. And I do see them quite often on Shop Goodwill, and they are hard to find for, not bid up super high. So they have a ton of appeal. And if you ever see one in a store, definitely grab it. These designs, you can see how and there's actually like historians who believe that there are historical relationship between Fair Isle and like Norwegian color work like this, but they're technically different techniques. So I wouldn't call this Fair Isle, but it may be mistakenly called Fair Isle sometimes, and that's not super surprising. Because you can see the resemblance of them. Very intricate detail patterns on there, multiple colors.
Can you switch to my other screen for a second? So I have another Dale.
Oh, great! Yeah.
So this is one that, and this sold on Poshmark for $225, but it is gorgeous. I mean, look at the detail on that. You can see, even on the closures there, they're just, it's beautiful. So, and that's what the tag looks like on that. And I'm sure, I know they have different tags. It doesn't, it's not, but that's what, and this, you can see the wool mark. I guess we should talk about the wool mark label.
Yeah, I hadn't mentioned that.
Yeah, so there's an example that this little swirly thing, and if you're not familiar, that is a wool mark label. And you can date a sweater by that too. If you go onto vintagefashionguild.org, they do have the wool mark. Over time it changes, and they do have, you can date sweaters by that. So this is a newer one, but you can see pure new. And if you see things like new wool, virgin wool, merino wool, those are the kind of things that you're looking for. So so can you tell us a little bit about the wool mark?
Yeah. So there's also the wool mark is a industry like promoting organization, sort of like Cotton also has the Cotton mark. They have like the fabric of our lives as the tagline, so that's the equivalent of that for wool. And the website I know has actually a ton of information about the history of it, when it was first implemented, and there's a more recent version of it that shows a wool blend that I think is sort of multicolored, so it's not all black, it's like black and gray or something. But they do, it has the dates of when those are introduced, so those are definitely useful to look at as well. And what was I going to say? I'm sorry. Dale of Norway also does like knitting patterns, and they will sell the findings, so like the metal hooks and stuff on the front of the sweater. If you ever find those, they can also, they're worth.
That's a good point. Sweater patterns can also.
The sweater patterns are a little hit or miss because some of them are available digitally. So if you find it in print, it's not necessarily something people are looking for. But there are out of print patterns. You never know. It's worth looking up. And then anything like that that's branded, like Dale of Norway, you know, it's definitely worth looking closely at.
Right. Right.
And then the last type of pattern I wanted to talk about is intarsia, which is often how more novelty sweaters will be created.
Okay.
So like really interesting, like the koalas that Nay has behind her.
Okay, so that would be intarsia.
Probably, I'd have to look at it more closely, but probably. I believe this one is also. So intarsia is a method for creating, you know, graphic shapes and things in knitting. Yeah, that definitely looks like intarsia.
Okay.
It is quite difficult to do by hand. You can, and it's also, you know, you can do it by machine, but it's also very it takes a lot of attention to the process to do it correctly. And someone is there switching the colors and stuff. It's not all automated. So, you know, these are often expensive sweaters, and they should be. So this was one I just found that I really liked.
It's so cute. I love it.
So cute.
If I had like just an extra $100,
I know, right?
definitely, yeah.
A lot of times less expensive sweaters will do sort of the graphic designs as an applique instead, or as embroidery. So you do want to kind of look closely at it, and someone who knows their stuff will appreciate the intarsia method. So if it is intarsia and it looks like it really is knitted as part of the fabric and not added on later, that's how you can tell.
Yeah, I think this one is intarsia too that I have down here.
Oh, really?
Is it? I'm not sure.
Which one? The
I'm sorry, I have it on the other screen if you want to.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
So
Yeah.
would this be considered? This is so cool. This sold for $52. I'm wondering though, if they had put it sold on Poshmark, I'm wondering this would sold for more on Depop or Etsy. Because I mean, come on, look at that. That's just,
that looks like it's handmade.
yeah, it's
patterns like this, like novelty patterns like this, were really big in the 80s.
I think you're right, because I mean, I could be wrong. I didn't sell it, obviously, but I don't see. Oh, there is a label on it. Hold on. Let's see.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, there is a label. So it's, yeah. And it's made in China. So it's, but it does look like it's probably.
Well, look at the photo that has the inside of it. Click on that.
Yeah. Okay. They have good photos.
See all of the ends of the yarn. That's definitely intarsia.
Okay. So that's, yeah. But that one sold for 52, but I would have thought that they could have even gotten more for that on a different platform.
If it were wool, I think it might have also.
Oh, that's true. Because it does say that it's not.
It's cotton,
it's creamy and cotton, which is not. I don't think that's as bad as acrylic, because there are people that, you know, vegans and people that, you know, don't support wool that are looking for, and there's also people that, my dad is allergic to wool. My dad put a wool sweater on him and he breaks out in hives and itches.
It's a good point.
So he can only wear cotton, you know, so there's an example of that too.
So that's actually a great note to talk a little bit about fiber content, which is super important in determining how much a sweater will go for. Like I mentioned before, wool, especially if it has like a specific type of wool on the label, is going to be more valuable. Cotton, as Nay just said, you know, a little bit less desirable, but there's definitely people who specifically look for cotton sweaters. This is a great example. Let me go back to my sheep. So this is a mohair blend, or it might actually just be mohair. Mohair, it has a really distinctive kind of aura, like halo to it. So it comes in and out of style. Right now it is quite in style, so it's something to look for. Sometimes it can end up looking a little bit dated if it's been a while since it was stylish, but it's one of those trends that comes and goes.
So I have a sweater here that has mohair in it. I don't know, you can pull me up really big. You might be able to see it on the, so this is St. John. It's vintage St. John. But it's got to be, and it doesn't have the content in it on it here. It just says dry clean only, but I can tell that it's definitely got mohair in it. If you can see, can you see the,
for sure. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it looks almost like there's pet hair attached to it, but it's woven in. I don't know how else to
Oh
explain
yeah,
it.
I think this one actually goes saying. I think this one has a mohair. Let me check.
Yeah, but you can see those little wispy kind of fibers there. That is mohair, and then it's definitely a wool blend too. But it's and then what would you call, what is this knit called on the edges here?
It looks like a seed stitch.
Okay,
I think
so,
it's a little hard to tell on the screen, but
and this is a cardigan. So cardigans are obviously open in the front. They could be zipped. They could have buttons. They could be open. They could, you know, snaps, anything, any kind of closure or open. This is an open one, but this is definitely has some mohair fiber. And I think Angora is Angora. Which one is that rabbit?
Angora is from rabbits. Yep.
Yeah, and mohair is
from goats.
Thank you. Okay,
and
so
to be confusing, Angora goats are where cashmere comes from. So
yeah, speaking of cashmere too, I might as well just pull. So this is this isn't like necessarily, this is the men's sweater. The brand is John Ashford, but it's 100% cashmere. It's an extra large.
Hold it up a little bit. Hurry.
It's it's new without tags. It still has like this sticker on it, but it's so buttery soft. Like yeah, so cashmere is something, and this will sell well, not based on the brand, but based on the fiber content. I have another one here, and this would be considered argyle, correct?
Yes, that is an argyle pattern.
Toe or boat neck. So this is
nice.
argyle. And this, you can see this. Now, this is just Banana Republic. However, when you see something like this, it says luxury. Am I showing?
Yeah.
So it says.
So anytime you have a cashmere blend, you want to then look at the actual fiber content on the tag, on the, you know, care tag, and make sure you include that in your description, because it will matter how much cashmere content is in there will impact the.
Yeah, and this is a little misleading because if you look at the fiber content,
does it say wool, viscose, nylon, cashmere? Yeah, so it's
only got 10% cashmere, whereas this is 100% cashmere.
Yeah, it's pretty common for sort of those bread and butter brands to have cashmere blends that also include some man-made fibers, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it wears a little bit better. It's going to last a little bit longer. It'll be a little bit more durable, but you definitely don't want an unhappy buyer to think it's 100% cashmere and, you know, get it be disappointed.
And honestly, I can tell the difference between these. This one is still soft, but it's not like buttery soft like the 100% cashmere is.
Yeah, I think I showed this one on a previous episode. This is another 100% cashmere. This one's from Everlane, which
switch us around here.
What?
Can you switch us?
Yeah. This is a brand that has gone down a little bit. I would still pick it up, but you can tell that what they do is just like really, really classic basics. This one was missing the tag, but I remember looking on the inside and finding all the information I needed on the inside. So when you're looking at sweaters, you definitely want to take time to look at the care tag, because like I said, you will find out that, like, this one's interesting. The body is 100% cashmere, but the neck and cuffs are actually a blend of cashmere and nylon, which is, like I said, not really a bad thing, because it means it will keep its shape longer.
Yeah, nylon does add strength to the fiber. So yeah, it's a strong fiber. So,
and then I think this one might be one you gave me. This was a Charter Club 2-ply 100%.
Oh yeah, that is one I gave you. That's funny. Yep,
yeah, Charter Club. That's a good, like, bread and butter, but like.
Yeah, and they sell Charter Club at Macy's, but you know, they do have, people are going to go for the cashmere, whether it's no matter what brand it is, you know. So that's when the brand doesn't matter as much as the fiber content. And you can definitely tell. You can tell once you learn, you can tell when you've got a cashmere sweater. You can just tell instantly when you're going through all the racks in the thrift store.
Yeah, you can feel it. This is not a sweater, it's a skirt.
Also, oh yeah, I gave you that one too. That's like a popcorn, right?
Yeah, well, this is a good boucle.
Would you call that popcorn too, or just boucle?
Yeah, you could call it both. But just in terms of looking, what it looks like,
Yeah.
something that
I remember that skirt. That's a really pretty skirt.
is really pretty.
Yeah.
So this is a texture caused by the fiber. So another example of that. And it is coming back in style. It was sort of out for a while, but I'm definitely seeing more of it. So that's one you might want to look for. And then talking about acrylic, generally when I do pick up an acrylic sweater, it has some sort of novelty factor to it. So this is an example of an ugly Christmas sweater that belongs to myself.
Yep. So
Remember this one?
That is definitely the kind of acrylic sweater, just like the one, and the one up there is not, I think it was, I forget what it was, wasn't 100% acrylic, but that's the kind of sweater that you'll find that's acrylic that you're going to still pick up because of the novelty factor.
Right. So, it's 100% acrylic, but it is officially licensed. And when I looked up this sweater, and I did scroll through a few, there's, every team has one. Some go for more than others, but this one at the time was like $75. So, definitely a good pickup for acrylic. I don't know if it's changed since then because that was a couple years ago, but.
I'm going to show an example of an acrylic sweater that you would want to get to. This is from my personal collection. It's missing the belt, but this is vintage. It's 100% acrylic. It is kind of, it's a cardigan. It's not really dolman, but it's like a looser, kind of like the one that you have on now. But I want to show the label on it, and that's why still got the thrift store tag for $10, so I know. But it is, let me see if I can take this thrift store tag off so you can see it better. So funny, so classic. Still has the barbs. I don't want to pull the barbs off because they'll rip it, but see the
yeah.
So
maybe
that is, well, I don't know. I guess it's probably like 70s. I'm gonna estimate
70s, early 80s, maybe. The colors seem a little 80s to me, but not late 80s.
Well, yeah, Taiwan, Republic of China. That's it's not just made in China. Machine. It does say machine washable, but it's 100% acrylic. But this is the kind of acrylic sweater that you'd want to pick up because it's vintage and it's actually very nicely made. It's heavy. It's not like something that you'd see in fast fashion today. Like it feels different. It feels, even though it is indeed acrylic, and it's got an interesting pattern on it. It's not just like
very like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
True, I love it though. It's very me, so I will be keeping it. But now that I took the thrift store tag off, so yeah, and then this one is. Anthropology moth, and I think it might be okay, so it's wool. Sorry, it's not, it's wool and nylon, not wool and acrylic. I thought it was wool and acrylic, but this is another one that's my personal sweater. It's like I said, it is anthro moth. This is what the moth looks like. It says moth on it, but it's got these pom-poms. What did you call them?
Baubles.
Baubles. Is it B-A-U-B-L-E-S?
B-O-B-L-E.
B-O-B-L-E-S. Okay. Oh, the other kind is like something that you find on glass. So.
Yeah. It's like you bob, like a bauble.
Okay.
So you bobble a ball or something.
Yeah. And the diamond knit is called what?
Well, that's actually a form of cable, I think.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, it's really pretty. And it's also got, I think it's got variegated yarn in it.
Yeah, it's hard to see on screen. It's really pretty. It's also,
but it's got different. Yeah, it's got like flecks of pink, and it's pink, purple, blue. It's like multicolored. It is hard to see, but that is what you would call a variegated yarn. So.
It also looks like that sweater is intentionally felted slightly, which is something generally you want to avoid.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It, like sweaters get felted after they've been like improperly washed. Like a wool sweater, if it goes through the wash, will get felted, and it means it's got like a different feeling to it. It looks different. But yes, this one is intentionally felted because it has not been shrunk for sure. It's a large. It fits me perfectly. So, and then.
If you ever see something described as boiled wool, that's also the same thing. That's sort of the term used when it's intentional versus when it was a mistake and got thrown in the wash.
And that I think that's definitely intentional.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this is more of an open knit, but it's also crochet, correct?
That would be crochet. I wouldn't call it an open knit at all because an open knit is something slightly different.
Okay.
If you're confused and not sure, I would, ask someone, or you could probably use both, but better to ask someone. I don't think a buyer will care, but if someone they can tell at a glance crochet.
Yeah, I would definitely use crochet for this though, and it's just a little like cropped kind of bolero kind of cardigan. It's so
very
bolero.
cute.
That's another keyword.
And this also would be like kind of festival wear. Definitely use like the boho terms for that.
Yeah. So
I have a few more bolos I wanted to share, and then I did want to briefly touch on eBay item specifics. Actually, I might do that first because that's related to what you just said. So, so like I said, the eBay item specifics for the sweater category really aren't that great. I was surprised to see them. So these are the two categories where the like texture or fabric, and then the other was the silhouette. So for the first one, these were the options I was given: cable knit, chunky knit, open knit, tight knit, or waffle knit. Cable knit would be what we discussed earlier with, any cable pattern. You could call that a cable knit. Chunky knit would be, I don't know if we have an example actually.
So I guess with this kind of a chunky knit, yes, I can get up and get it. It's in my drawer, so let me just grab it.
Okay, so anything that's knit with what you can tell at a glance is the thicker yarn. It's pretty easy to determine. Open knit would be sort of what Nay was holding a second ago, the crochet one. You can also have knit garments that are sort of like that with a lot of openness to it. They're more summer, might be more made of cotton. So that would be used for that. Did you find? Tight knit is a weird one. Honestly, I can't imagine a buyer using that term. I'm not really sure. It's so subjective. I don't know exactly. I mean, a really dense fabric could be a tight knit fabric. That one, I'm not sure why they included it. And then waffle knit is just a texture or a stitch pattern. It sort of looks like thermal underwear, like thermal shirt with the kind of waffle texture. So you will see that sometimes, but it's not something I would consider its own specific category.
Okay, grab some more. I got a bunch of them.
Okay,
so this would be chunky. Here, if you can, maybe
I'll bring it
up. Okay, so this is chunky, right?
Yeah, so that's a little different. It looks like it's two different yarns that create an interesting pattern together. I would call it chunky. It's its own thing.
It's like heavier, it's thicker, heavier, bulkier yarn.
Yeah,
not maybe the best example, but it is kind of a chunky.
I mean, that counts. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, and this is a cardigan.
That's really cool.
I have to get it fixed though because it does have a it's got pockets. It's zippered, but it's got a tear in one of the pockets. So
that's pretty easy to.
Well, for you it would be easy.
But it's not. It doesn't look like moth damage. It's just
no. It's just that the pocket ripped. Yeah. So I think I actually bought it that way at the thrift store with it. I think I got it for like $1, but it was so warm and cozy. It's hooded.
That does look really warm and cozy.
Okay, so this is like
more of it. Definitely consider that chunky knit.
And then this is, I think this would be like an accent, like a lace kind of accent, right?
Yeah, it's more of a fabric overlay, but that is a good example of what lace looks like in general, where you have a lot of that open space. You can create that by knitting. So yeah.
And this is a tight knit, but it's got that accent, like.
Yeah.
And then this is probably more of an open knit.
Yes, that's a great example of open knit.
Okay.
And it has some cables in there, even so. Even though it's sort of open knit, it does have some cabling in it, which is interesting. You see that?
Yeah, it's a real. This is one from this is my personal sweater too. It's like big and roomy and just like it's short sleeve, so I'll just wear it like over, with leggings and a long sleeve shirt underneath. But it's
it's
so
a nice little spring transition piece.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like good for all seasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then this is just acrylic. It's nothing. I think I showed this on our episode last week. It's just New York and Company, 100% acrylic. But this would be a ribbed knit, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So that's another
great
one.
example of ribbing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and ribbed knits were popular back in the 90s. You see a lot of ribbing in the 90s. And that is popular on Depop.
Yes, great example. So do your best with these. I wouldn't stress too much if you're not sure, just because it's not like you don't know the right thing. It's that eBay sort of has weird terms in here. Then on here, the silhouettes or shapes of the sweater, sort of like we talked about at the top of this episode, some of these make more sense than others. And I think a lot of these are a little self-explanatory. Everyone knows what a cape is. Cardigan, a full zip is, a cardigan with a zipper. Henley would be buttons, partially down the front, not all the way down.
Like a few buttons. Yep.
Henley,
I think Henley's more prevalent in shirts, but you can also have sweaters.
And I definitely think that's also something that kind of comes and goes. So like in the 70s, it was a lot more common to find sweater Henleys, I think.
Okay.
So, may or may not come across those. Shrug would be more like the bolero that you shared, where it's the shoulders. Yep. Tunic would be the length longer, something you wear with leggings.
Yep.
Vest.
This would be a tunic length. This one it's super long. So.
And then wrap is a little nebulous. It could be more of a very large scarf, or it could be something that does have armholes, but then comes down with a lot of volume, and you might want to pin it or belt it.
There's also kind of synonymous with that as poncho, but that's not on there.
Yeah, and that would be somewhere between like a cape and a wrap too. So
or shawl is another one that's not on there. But
so just wanted to go over those, since it's a little bit of a new feature on eBay. If you have an item that you're not sure about how to categorize it, you can always reach out and ask. Did you have an example?
I have some. Did you want to go through cleaning, or did you want me to show you some more bolos?
Oh, well, let's do cleaning, and then we can end with bolos, because that's always the most fun part.
Absolutely.
So the only challenge I would say about sweaters is that it is easy to introduce pests into your inventory if you're thrifting them, or into your personal
Absolutely, that's the way.
So I did want to talk a little bit about sweater care. When I first thrift a sweater, I will try to look it over really carefully in the store and see if it has any moth holes. Especially the vintage pieces, it's really hard to find ones that don't, and it's really hard to pass up ones that have minimal damage. So I will sometimes buy things with moth holes. I'll be very careful with them.
Generally, you have to hold them up to the light, kind of.
Hold them up to the light. I do recommend having like a small flashlight that you can shine directly on them, or hold them up to a window so that the light's coming through, and it'll really help find any small holes. You also want to wash them. Sometimes washing will unfortunately break any weak fibers that were already damaged to begin with. So it was like a hole waiting to happen. I generally, if I bring in a sweater or yarn, anything wool like that, I stick it in the freezer for a couple weeks, which should kill any bugs that are on it. I know there's some debate over whether or not the freezer is cold enough. The other thing that you can do is, if it's summer and you have a car, you can stick it in the car and leave the car out in the sun, which, depending on where you live in the country or outside the US, can be easier or harder to wrangle that. And again, there's some disagreement on whether that's hot enough. I generally am pretty confident in that. I also was taught how to to put things in the sun inside a big like Tupperware Rubbermaid tote kind of thing.
Yeah, that's another thing too. And if you store them in totes in the first place instead of just like bags or out in the open,
yes,
that will keep them out. And put cedar in, not mothballs, because mothballs stink.
So first I just wanted to finish. If you put them in the sun in a tote, kind of like a plastic box, you can get a cheap thermostat and that will tell you how hot the box is getting. So I did this over the summer with all of my yarn, and even in New England, in the middle of the summer, the boxes got up to like 115 degrees, which should be pretty hot. That's like, if you want to be on the safe side, know exactly how hot your sweaters got if they killed the bugs. That's the way to do it. But yes, and they're also great for storage. Cedar is helpful. You definitely need to be vigilant about reinvigorating the cedar blocks by either sanding them down or adding more cedar oil to them, because they will lose their potency over time.
Okay. Mothballs are stinky and toxic.
Yeah, I would avoid mothballs. A good alternative is on Amazon. You can get moth traps that are like pheromone based, and so they actually attract the male moths with the pheromones that like the female moths use to attract their mate, and then they're sticky inside, so they kill the moths, and they don't get all the moths, but they get the males, and so that way you're breaking the cycle of reproduction, so it's less likely that they're going to multiply, which is really how moths get into your stuff. So they're not super cheap, but they're definitely worth it to have if you own a lot of sweaters in your own personal closet, or if you're thrifting them to sell. Like, definitely better safe than sorry. Okay, so couple questions. Did we discuss ugly Christmas sweaters? We did a little bit.
Yeah, and I have some examples when I show some of the BOLOs. I will show some examples of some solds on some Christmas sweaters. Okay. Basically, though, we talked about, like, even if it's like lower end acrylic and all, it's the novelty factor. Any of those novelty sweaters, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, winter. Just like I have Heather, you probably didn't see it, but I have a snowman. He's a melting snowman up top. That would be like something that, somebody that's non-religious, or like Brian said, somebody who does not celebrate Christmas, going to a holiday or Christmas party would want, so things like that are.
No, Heather, that was exactly the opposite of what I was trying to do. I'm sorry. Buy sweaters, just take good care of them, and be ready to do a little extra work. But they're totally.
Oh yeah, and I've never had a problem. I've had ones with mothballs that I bought successfully, quarantined. I've and it's fine. It's not. I've never had a problem. Plus, a lot of them, and don't ever trust this ever because you don't know. But a lot of them, the moths are long gone. The cycle's long gone. They're long dead, especially on like the vintage sweaters. The moth damage might be there, but those moths are like from the 60s. They're gone. The moths are gone. But you can't trust that. So you always, have to err on the side of caution.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a better safe.
So Brian, like, when a Ziploc or airtight bag work, did you address that?
Yeah, so Ziplocs are great for storage. If you've already done your, sort of eradicating and quarantining of them. Definitely a great way to keep bugs out in the long term. If you have sweaters that you're storing during the summer, or if you have inventory that you don't think is going to move during the summer, the vacuum seal bags are great. The storage bags where you vacuum out all the extra air. I think that's what you might mean by the airtight bags. You can get those super cheap on Amazon. They help keep everything, stored in less space, and definitely help keep bugs out. The only annoying thing is if you have something you sold in it, then you have to undo the whole thing and redo it once you get the item out, and they can cause some wrinkles and stuff. So you might want to like steam them carefully before shipping it out, but that's totally up to you. And then the last couple things that I like to have in my sweater kit, which I think might be useful for you as well, is a good wool wash. The one I use is called Euclid. And again, it's available on Amazon. It's a little bit of a specialty item that knitters swear by, but it's good for any wool items.
This article, it has on how to wash your wool sweaters, hand wash. And you do have to be careful because you can ruin them, but don't ever put them in the dryer. But this is an article that talks about it, and you can save costs on dry, and a lot of them can be safely.
Oh yeah, I'm generally, if it says dry clean only, I completely ignore that because I know how to take care of wool. I've done it a million times.
And that's what this article is saying. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're hand washing a sweater that you thrifted, if it's a good bread and butter item and not like a super rare bolo, then you're not going to lose that much if you screw it up. And so it's probably worth it in the long run for, to get a little practice in and then save yourself money at the dry cleaners later on.
Which is, that's what this is saying. So
the real trick is just, at least to me, what I found is the trick is to speed the drying process as much as possible. So it helps to you always want to lay out your sweater flat. I like to put it on like a big trash bag, something that's plastic that cannot absorb water so that it's forced to evaporate. And then if you can put it in the sun, put it wherever, there's a good, like in the winter, putting it near like a dryer so that's a little bit warmer. Just whatever you can do to make sure that there's not excess moisture that's then causing like mold growth and mildew and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's the key.
I'm looking a little psychedelic here it's the way the sun is shining in. So funny. Yeah, and Heather said that crafty people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just talked about that too, like the felted wool, how some things are actually made like that purposely. So
yeah. So this is a great example of a sold. Oops. Let's see. This is obviously a huge lot, but this is craft quality, so slightly flawed cashmere sweaters for $2,800. So put together a small
you can sell the flawed ones. So so if you do have some that have holes or whatever, again, quarantine them and all, but I still will pick them up like at the bins or cheaply because you can make a lot if you have enough. You can,
that's a great trick too. And if you want to, you can also try your hand at intentionally felting sweaters. Wool, not cashmere, generally felts better. But if you have a bunch of flawed wool sweaters that you find at the bins, throw them in the wash, do it on a warm cycle, add something in extra like old t-shirts to agitate it a little bit more, throw it in the high setting on the dryer.
800 cashmere sweaters. Wow. That had to be expensive to ship.
It was freight. Yeah. It looked like it was not cheap to.
Yeah, that's like a whole pallet. My gosh. Mm-hmm. I have some. So these are Cutter. I actually pulled up a search for Cutter sweaters. If you look on eBay, there's Etsy too. There's a ton of them. So you can see. I mean, this is more like 88, 150, 36. 20 for $200. Yeah, I mean, you could find 20 cashmere sweaters that have flaws for.
Yeah, well, and this one says 10 pounds. We still pay about $1.20 depending on your bin.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're looking at these prices, you can really make money on, and crafters will use these. So so definitely 18. That's a reasonable amount to be able to get, and you can make. Yeah, so definitely think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to my huge info dump on caring for sweaters?
Yeah, well, you can use a clothes shaver too because they do get pilly. Keep a clothes shaver in my stash. I was gonna bring it out, but you all know what they look like. There are manual ones, and then I have an electric one. But you have to be careful. You don't want to press too hard with the blade because it is a blade. Just gentle pressure, and it will take the pilling off, and it can really bring new life into a sweater. So that's something I recommend that you have in your little thrifting toolkit, in your little reseller toolkit. I have one, and it works. So if you see something in the thrift store that's really pilly and think about what you can do with it, because you can bring new life into a sweater that way.
Totally.
So, and then I guess that's it about care. I will also, the other thing I do with sweaters sometimes is I have like one of those Dryel kits. And I don't necessarily use like the Dryel actual thing, but I'll put it in the Dryel bag. and I'll put it on high heat in the dryer. And I know that that's like, it sounds scary but it doesn't shrink them unless they're wet. It doesn't shrink them in the bag. And that will also, that should kill anything too. So you don't need to put it in, I think, like 20 minutes or so, but it also will freshen them up a little. If you do the dry L bag, spray it. I don't really recommend Febreze unless you use like one of the neutral scents, because people are sensitive to smells, but
good. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but you can do that.
I'm going to get my cat just a second. Nate, you want to start jumping?
Yeah, I'll pull up so I'll pull up some of the bolos. So here is this is if you just search on Etsy for sweaters, you will see the kind of things that sell on Etsy. So you see this sheep sweater, a lot of novelty, a lot of vintage, really beautifully hand knit and stuff like that. So when you find those awesome sweaters, think about Etsy for vintage. This is Kuji, still sells, not necessarily as well as it used to, but that is a bolo. And, just so what I would recommend is just search Etsy for sweaters, and you can search, do a search from high to low and you'll see like a lot of these type of nice, beautiful vintage sweaters. So that's Etsy. And then Depop, again, I just searched vintage sweater, and you'll see the same kind of thing. Like you want those kind of kitschy, vintage, cutesy, novelty, all those kind of things are the type that are going to sell on Depop. So be mindful of, what type of sweater you have and what platform to. So this is a vintage Y2K crop sweater. This is obviously acrylic, but this is something that's going to be, sell well on Depop. So,
that's super cool too, because it looks like she added a new hem. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, she reworked it. So if you're crafty, you can do stuff like that too, and make it trendier to sell on Depop. So that's what you're looking for Depop. And then I just wanted to go through. This is an article about from stylecaster.com, which is one of the websites that I love. And this is an article about the trends that are sweater trends that are happening right now. So you'll see plaid is one. My internet is like, all right, I'm not going to touch it for a second. It's just going to keep zooming. Okay. So plaid is one trend. That's one thing that's trending. I'll make it a little smaller. It's a little too big there. Hold on. If I can. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom out. Okay. So you can see plaid sweaters are one thing. I can't get rid of this thing. Sorry, it's going like super slow. So balloon sleeves, chunky dad sweaters.
Yeah, so that's like an Erin-esque kind of sweater.
Okay. Yeah, that's a button-up cardigan. Gosh.
The bobbles.
Yeah, there's the bobble. Yeah. Color blocks. So that's in again, like big color. Yep. Color block. I have a couple of those that I need to get listed. Argyle. So I just talked about the Argyle sweater that I have here. That's another thing this is Argyle. So that's another thing that's trending. Wish this wasn't so slow. Puffed up sleeves.
Yep, just like on blouses, and we saw that all summer. So that's still a thing on sweaters. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you can see the. What's this? And I will put that link in I'll put that link in the description. It's For some reason, it just wants to go super slow. But those are some of the things that are trending now in sweaters. And if you also look on, oh my, not that. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to go through some of the, so talking about Christmas sweaters, if you look, you can see some crazy Christmas sweater sales on eBay. There's one that sold for, I don't know why that sold for that much, but some of them sell for, and then these are just some of the sales on eBay that, you know, if you do a search from like highest to lowest, you can get an idea of what is selling. This is a Free People sweater that sold for $260. So you never know, you know, some of them might be. And we go back to our Ralph Lauren episode because we talked specifically about sweaters that are, and I'm not going to go over those. Go back to our episode and watch it. But basically, real quick synopsis: bear sweaters. There's ski sweaters. There's like Southwestern print kind of inspired sweaters. So Indian blanket, they're called Southwestern. So any of those, go back to our Ralph Lauren, because there are some really big sweater bolos in that episode. There's Dale of Norway again, Escada. Some of these are big brand names. So look at that. That's a Grateful Dead sweater. How cool is that? Dancing Bears. 192. So go through some of the and get an idea of what is selling. This, I think, one of our thrifting board members, I don't know if this is their actual listing, but one of our thrifting board members just sold this Michael Simon Dr. Seuss sweater. This is a Grinch sweater for quite a bit, somewhere in that ballpark. So, and Michael Simon is another brand that can go high. Some of those, they're like kitschy, kind of cutesy sweaters. You know, they have, you know, and then Quacker Factory has kind of lost its momentum a little bit, but some of those they're along the same lines, those kind of novelty sweaters. And some of those can still sell for a decent amount, you know, maybe not as much as they used to, but still you're looking at, you know, like $50, $64. So there's some Halloween sweaters. They have a lot of Christmas sweaters, there's Thanksgiving, a lot of novelty and holiday sweaters. So look for those. And these are Michael Simon's. So you can see, you know, $200. Michael Simon seems to be going more than Quacker Factory now. So, you know, really cool. So some of those Michael Simon sweaters, look for those. They are in the thrift stores, you know, you will find them, and they will sometimes go for quite a bit. A lot of holiday sweaters there too. So this one, see, $165 it went for. That is super cute.
So Nay, I don't know if Becky's still watching, but Jason said that Becky was the one who sold that sweater that you pulled up.
Oh, it was Becky.
That's so cool.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know I saw I was like so busy the other day and I was scrolling through and I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then like, I didn't realize that it was Becky that posted it. That is so cool. So congratulations, Becky. Yeah. So look for that. Cambridge Dry Goods is another one. And I had I had a sweater that downstairs. I have a Cambridge Dry Goods sweater. So Cambridge, do you remember Cambridge Dry Goods, Lola, or are you too
I think
young?
I'm too young.
Okay. So this shows my age. So back in the 90s, Cambridge Dry Goods was huge, and it was a very big name in sweaters. I have one downstairs now to list. I actually just got it on shopgoodwill.com. It is super cute. It's got a snowflake on the front. Maybe I'll put it on my Manny next week or the week after or something if I don't sell it in the meantime. But yeah, so look for Cambridge. They don't sell for a whole lot, but I mean, $50, you know, that's a good. So look for them, and they are solid sellers. So I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the name back in the 90s. This is a newer one. I think they still are making sweaters, but the older ones will sell even better. So this is a newer one, but it had a more. And then the other thing is Irish linen sweaters. I have sold some Irish linen sweaters for quite a bit. This one went for $70. It's vintage, I think. Yeah, it looks like it's vintage. Hand loomed. That's another thing that you're looking for. So that went for $70. So Irish linen. Linen is lighter weight. It's more distinctive. And then this is another brand. Montclair is a high-end brand. It's the men's sweater, sold for $250. And then this is Pendleton. So they kind of keyword spam, but I don't know if this is I didn't see the movie, so I'm not sure if this is the exact.
I think this is probably an exception for keyword spamming, because that that's a very iconic type of sweater. And I think it was a Pendleton sweater in the movie. So
okay. So I have sold a lot of Pendleton sweaters too. I have some somewhere in my inventory that, and they do very well. So this one sold for $250. They're not all going to sell for that much, but a lot of them. Woolrick is another brand. This is a Woolrick, the one behind me, the koalas. And then we have the Coogee. Coogee still does sell, not, and the prices are kind of varied. They used to sell for a lot more. Like this one went for $250. I'll take $250 any day, you know.
right.
So they're very distinctive though. They're very like you know, vibrant. And Coogee was under a different name, and I can't remember. It was
is it the
C-U-G-G-I? I think that's it. It was C-U-G-G-I.
This is a good example of how to do that. They have both in the title and then in the description. So
yeah, it was first C-U-G-G-I, and then it was changed to C-O-O-G-I. So if you see that spelling, it just means it's an older one. So and then this was so cool. Stone Immaculate Limited. Yeah, so this one went for $410. I mean, if you see things like this, people are going to pay up for these, you know, these crazy designs, and especially with David Bowie, you know, being, and then this one, equestrian animals, like that always, equestrian for some reason always sells well. This was hand knit. Now, do you know this word? Wiccan?
No, I reckon it. Is it the Western style?
I think so. It probably is a word like for Southwestern kind of that kind of but yeah, so this one sold for $460. So you don't ever know like what you're gonna find in the store, in the thrift stores. That they are out there. This one is an example. I did do one example of Ralph Lauren. This is the double RL. If you watch our episode, you'll know what that is. And that this one sold for $600. So and that was cotton. This was a heavy cotton sweater. You can tell it's very heavy, well knit. And then Low is another brand. Do you know Low?
I do not know this brand.
Okay, so this is another very high-end brand. And they kind of have like these kind of, you know, cutesy kind of, and they all say like kind of obnoxiously low on them, you know, like, but they will sell for a lot of money. So this one sold for $850. So if you ever see that, and then Gucci, of course, you know, that's any high end. I mean, they're going to be harder to find, but they are out there. And then Chanel, obviously, you know, anything like that you and they, you know, you never know what you're going to find. $2,300 though. That's a sweater I would like to find. Yeah. So I think that's all I have for.
Yeah. That's pretty much. I think I had a couple more bolos. So here's one that I wanted to share because we both really like this brand. So this is Etro. Where they're super, they're super colorful patterns. So they do also have sweaters. I think Nay, you showed dresses from them that you've sold.
Yes, I sold a beautiful Etro dress back in the summer. We did an episode like last year, I think, and I showed it. Yeah.
And then this is an example I was super excited to find. So we've talked about Kate Bassett before. He's like a very well-known designer.
Gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I want that sweater.
Isn't it beautiful? So this was actually hand knit, and the description mentions the exact pattern that that it was knit from. The way he designs, you know, you could deviate from the pattern, but the pattern gives, you know, specific color schemes and yarns. And I'm thinking that this was one that kind of followed closely his original like specifications for creating it. And it's just really nice to see that, you know, someone's hard work went for over $800, almost $900. With shipping. So, and then this is just, you know, an exquisite piece. It would not have been cheap to buy the materials, but not this expensive. So, you know, a lot of that value is in the making, which is really beautiful. And then, let's see, I showed these.
Heather says, do not use Bill Cosby. So for the Coogee sweaters, this was Bill Cosby sweater was like a common term before, but there's a little bit of scandal related to Bill, so don't use that anymore because
no longer
kind of
point. Iskander is another high-end brand. Very classic, basic pieces, but very well made with very good materials. So this is a cashmere vest, not even a full sweater. It has really interesting sleeve openings like that. I thought that was cool.
A little, I think he's talking about the Bill Cosby, yeah. Little bit scandalous, a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to change the slide on the screen.
That is gorgeous. Oh my
Isn't
God.
that beautiful? So this is another very high-end brand.
Yeah.
That does, I think, exclusively knitwear. But I love this example because it does show the color work. So this could be considered intarsia. And then the collar is a shawl collar, which is another great keyword to use where applicable. And just any collar that comes down like that and sort of doubles over.
Yep.
And I think that's it. I did have a couple. These are a couple more Ralph Lauren. Again, our Ralph Lauren episode goes super in depth on these. So check that out.
Yeah, that's an example on the right of the blanket sweater. Some of those a lot. You see that one's. Yeah, they're asking 2,000, and that will sell. Yeah, so.
Oh, these are all sold. So
they are sold. That's sold. Okay. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it may have been a best offer that didn't come up on there, but somewhere in that ballpark for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I'm just going to go to our market report and wrap it up. So I sold, I did have a little hiccup this week and I had to close my eBay store down for like a day, but I was right back up and running. So I didn't have as many sales, but I do have some good sales to show. So this one, I think we talked about this in one of our episodes. This is Sanyo Fashion House, Carol Cohen. It is a vintage. And it is made in the same, so I had converse with this woman that she said that it was made in Oneida, I'm going to butcher that name, New York in the 80s. So she said her father ran the factory along with the Japanese team and she was the inventory and production. She met Carol Cohen. We talked about this on one of our...
I think on our vintage episode, maybe?
Yeah, I don't remember which episode it was, but it was our thrifted history. So she said that... the same factory made Burberry, Bill Blass, Saks, and Nordstrom, and a fabulous Japanese designer, Mickey Moon, very high-end garments. So I found some information through her, which is really exciting. And someone in New York City, it's just going to New York City. It'll be there tomorrow. I shipped it today. That is, so it's gone. It was a gorgeous coat. So,
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I sold that for $100. She had originally, and this is a good example of how you should not accept the low offers, So she offered me 50. I knew that it was worth, and it's probably worth more than 100 even, but it sat for a while. It's kind of like that specific coat that, it's kind of going to be a harder sell because it's got to appeal to like that right person. So she offered 50 first. And you know what? I countered. And then she countered back at like, we got up to like 75 and then I countered at 100 and she accepted. So you never know. So definitely don't accept. If I'd accepted the 50, I would have, never. So don't be afraid to counter. And then this sold for, I've had this forever, but these Madra plaid skirts do sell all year round for me. I find them a lot. I think I found this in the bins. So wasn't a bad
bins,
so I mean for $15, not bad. It was quick, easy sale. And then these, oh my gosh, so this person kept she kept offering me like $10 and I kept going back and forth with her, and then we got to 15 and I countered at 20, and then she finally wrote me this note, and I how sometimes they pull on your heartstrings. And she's like, oh, I really want these, but I can only spend. So I was like, okay, I accepted the 17. And I think I only paid like $2.99 for them, but it's such a cool print. It's like the Airstream
is a very
the trailer. Yeah. With the flamingos. So such an awesome print. So she got a great deal, but I wasn't unhappy with it because I did. And then this, I had a sweater sale. This just sold last night, right in time. So this was a super cute. Is this an intarsia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like the The string is embroidered on afterward, but the cats would be in Tarja.
Okay, and this would be a factory because it is Coldwater Creek, so right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's zippered. It was zippered. It did have the original tags on it, which was cool. So it had the $89 price tag, and I sold it for $44. So that went out just today. I just sold it last night. So that was a good. There's a sweater sale. So, and
Very appropriate for this episode.
I know. So, and then we have a question for you this week. We want to know what your favorite specific sweater or sweater brand is. So let us know if you have a particularly, even if it's, you know, something that you thrifted that you wear in your personal collection, or something that you sold, let us know.
Okay. And yeah, leave a comment and tell us.
Yep. And we are everywhere. You can find us on Poshmark, Instagram, Depop, eBay. Email us at nalothrifts@gmail.com if you have an idea for an upcoming show or you want to be a guest. We are going to be having some guests coming up. I just have to get them lined up. So let us know. And then again, next week, we will be back for 2020 holiday decor trends. So that's going to be the 13th. At 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific, and we will be talking about all holidays. If there's something that you would like us to discuss regarding holiday trends, or again, if there's somebody that celebrates a different holiday like Kwanzaa, or you know, anything that you'd like us to include, maybe some of you celebrate Hanukkah and there's something specific that, you know, you have to add, let us know before the show and we'll add it in. So
totally.
Yeah, so we'll see you next week. I hope everyone gets some rest over the weekend and kind of like calms down from all of the madness this week with the election.
Totally. Festivus.
Jason always has to chime in with something. So yes, Festivus for the rest of us.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Okay, we'll see you next week. On that note, bye,
Yes,
everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great week.